Urfan Sharif, the man who killed his 10-year-old daughter, Sarah Sharif, was attacked inside the high-security walls of Belmarsh prison. On New Year's Day, in a chilling act of prison justice, his throat was slit with a sharpened tuna can lid, an ambush so brutal that even the most hardened inmates were left in shock. Who orchestrated this violent attack, and what does it reveal about the prison's dark, unspoken code? Urfan Sharif, a name now infamous across the UK and beyond, was once an unassuming father. But the brutal death of his 10-year-old daughter, Sarah Sharif, transformed him into one of the country's most hated men. Convicted of her murder and sentenced to life in prison, Sharif's descent from anonymity to infamy was as swift as it was horrifying. Yet the story took another dark turn on New Year's Day, when Sharif became the victim of a vicious attack behind the high-security walls of HMP Belmarsh. Belmarsh is no ordinary prison. Known for housing some of the most dangerous and high-profile inmates in the country, it operates under a constant cloud of tension. For someone like Sharif, whose crime sparked nationwide outrage, entering Belmarsh was akin to walking into a lion's den. Among inmates, child killers are often viewed with utter contempt, and Sharif's notoriety made him an immediate target. The man behind the attack was later identified as Steve Sansom, a name already etched in infamy. Sansom, a convicted murderer with a chilling history of violence, had spent much of his adult life behind bars. His first crime, a shocking murder committed when he was just 19, set the stage for a lifetime of brutality. Most recently, he was awaiting sentencing for the gruesome killing of Sarah Mayhew, a crime so horrifying that it sent shockwaves through the community. Urfan Sharif was sentenced to prison for the brutal killing of his 10-year-old daughter. But life behind bars would prove to be far from a quiet, mundane existence for him. In the high-security confines of the UK's prison system, where hardened criminals are held, Sharif became a target. It was only a matter of time before his crimes caught up with him in the most shocking of ways. On January 1st, 2025, a few months after his conviction, Urfan Sharif was attacked by fellow inmates at HMP Wakefield. The assault was swift and brutal. Using a tuna tin lid as a weapon, the inmates slashed at Sharif's neck and face, inflicting serious injuries. It wasn't a random act of violence, it was calculated. The attack was planned, and it was a direct response to the anger that had built up in the prison over Sharif's crime. Sharif's actions, the horrific murder of his innocent daughter, had turned him into a symbol of everything wrong in the eyes of the inmates. In the prison, where the line between right and wrong is often blurred, the act of child murder is considered unforgivable. Sharif's crime, killing his own daughter, was a line that many prisoners could not and would not tolerate. The motive behind the attack was clear. It was retribution. The inmates, many of whom had families and children of their own, were enraged by the thought that someone could commit such a heinous crime against their own flesh and blood. Some sources suggest that the attack was organized, with several inmates taking part in the assault, all united by the same anger and disgust at Sharif's actions. Though the assault left Sharif with serious injuries, he survived. The attack was significant, but not life-threatening. Nevertheless, it served as a stark reminder that, in prison, actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences go beyond the judicial system. Sharif's assault in prison raised several questions. Was this attack a form of vigilante justice, a message to other inmates about the unacceptable nature of his crime? Or was it simply the brutal reality of prison life, where the most dangerous criminals live by a different code, one that doesn't tolerate child killers? Why would Sansom, already facing life in prison, risk further punishment by attacking Sharif? According to sources within the prison, it was a calculated move, a way to solidify his reputation among inmates. In the unspoken hierarchy of prison life, acts of violence against child killers can elevate one's status, turning Sansom into a twisted kind of anti-hero in the eyes of his peers. The attack itself was as savage as it was premeditated. Armed with a jagged lid from a fish can, Sansom cornered Sharif as he returned from the showers. With the help of another inmate who reportedly held the cell door shut, Sansom unleashed a frenzied assault, slashing Sharif across the neck and face. Even within the confines of Belmarsh, where murderers and violent offenders are the norm, some crimes are deemed unforgivable. Steve Sansom first made headlines decades ago. At just 19 years old, he committed his first murder, killing a New Addington taxi driver. For this crime, he was sentenced to prison. But after years behind bars and attempts at rehabilitation, he was released on parole, a decision that would prove disastrous. In March 2024, Sansom's name once again surfaced in the darkest way imaginable. He murdered Sarah Mayhew, a 38-year-old woman from New Addington. The details of this crime sent shockwaves across the nation. Sansom and an accomplice, Gemma Watts, not only killed Sarah Mayhew, but also dismembered her body using power tools, scattering her remains across multiple locations. Parts of her were discovered in Rowdown Fields, and later in the River Wandle, painting a gruesome picture of the lengths Sansom went to cover his tracks. The discovery of Mayhew's remains ignited fear in the community, and outrage quickly followed. Questions about how someone with Sansom's history of violence was granted parole dominated the public discourse. A review of his parole was ordered, but it came too late for Sarah Mayhew and her family. Fast forward to January 2025. Sansom, now back behind bars, finds himself in HMP Belmarsh, a maximum security prison housing some of the most dangerous offenders in the UK. Among his fellow inmates is Urfan Sharif, convicted of the brutal murder of his 10-year-old daughter, Sarah Sharif. Sharif's crime had made headlines across the country, turning him into one of the most hated figures in the prison system. For someone like Sansom, with a history of extreme violence and a twisted sense of justice, Sharif's presence was an opportunity to assert dominance, to send a message, or perhaps to unleash his violent tendencies on someone society deemed even more reprehensible. In the brutal world of HMP Belmarsh, where crimes are often weighed against each other, Sharif's status as a child killer made him a prime target. Sansom's actions raise a host of troubling questions. Was this attack simply an outburst of prison violence? Or was it fueled by Sansom's own twisted moral code? Did he see himself as an avenger, punishing someone whose crime he deemed more horrific than his own? Or was it another act of mindless violence from a man whose history suggests he is beyond redemption? The incident marked him not only as a victim, but as a symbol of the brutal justice that can unfold within the walls of a high-security prison. Prison staff were left to grapple with the fallout. Despite Belmarsh's reputation as one of the UK's most secure facilities, this attack highlighted serious concerns about inmate safety. How could someone like Steve Sansom, a known repeat offender with a history of extreme violence, orchestrate such a vicious assault? And how could another inmate assist him without intervention? The police quickly launched an investigation into the incident, though no arrests were made at the time. Eyewitness accounts and internal reports suggested that Sansom had meticulously planned the attack, using the jagged lid of a fish can as his weapon. This improvisation underscored the resourcefulness of inmates like Sansom, who can turn even the most mundane objects into tools of destruction. For Sharif, the attack was a grim reminder of the hatred he faced, even among other convicted criminals. His crime, the murder of his own daughter Sarah, had made him a pariah, even in the eyes of those who had committed heinous acts themselves. In the unwritten code of the prison hierarchy, child killers are often considered the lowest of the low, and Sharif's case was no exception. One prison insider described the atmosphere following the attack as tense and charged with anger. Guards had reportedly been on high alert, aware that Sharif was a likely target due to the media coverage of his trial and conviction. Despite these precautions, the attack occurred, leaving questions about whether more could have been done to protect him. Meanwhile, Sansom's role in the assault only added to his infamy. Sources claim that he showed no remorse for his actions, instead viewing the attack as a twisted badge of honor. In the prison's violent subculture, such acts can elevate an inmate's status, particularly when the victim is someone as reviled as Sharif. The incident also reignited public discourse about the prison system's role in protecting inmates, even those convicted of the most heinous crimes. For Sharif, the scars from the attack serve as a lasting reminder of the hatred he faces, both inside and outside the prison walls. His case, already one of the most high-profile in recent years, now carries an added layer of tragedy and brutality. As for Steve Sansom, the attack further cemented his reputation as one of the prison system's most dangerous inmates. With a parole review already underway due to his previous crimes, this latest act of violence ensures that his time behind bars will likely extend indefinitely.
Thank you for watching this episode of True Crime Uncovered. If you found this story impactful, please like this video, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay safe.